And there he is, Ali Velshi. Ali Velshi, my goodness. Can you even hear me, Ali?
I can hear you. I can hear you. That sounds about right what Chad just said. It's really blowing in Atlantic City. It's one of those gusts we're getting. It wasn't this way for the whole last couple of hours, but it's getting pretty strong now. This is about as strong as we've seen it.
Chad, who is that driving along? Is that emergency personnel?
I couldn't tell.
Or Ali, rather? Forgive me.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's what it was. It was a police vehicle. That's pretty much all. Police vehicles and utility vehicles. I think they're trying to get an early response. We are definitely, I was on the boardwalk, which is about 3/4 of a mile behind me. I was just there about half an hour ago. And emergency crews out there trying to clear the boardwalk of people. There wasn't anybody out there, though. They were just making sure everything was okay. So right now, all you're seeing is emergency vehicles or work crews like you've got right here.
Ali, at any moment in time, we'll yank this if you are at all in danger, if you start seeing anything flying your way. I can just hear the whipping wind. I believe it's Atlantic City where 3 hours from now there's this mandatory curfew, right? So from 6 o'clock in the evening through 6 in the morning, people cannot come out, as you point out, except for those emergency vehicles. What else do you see? Who else have you talked to today?
Okay. I'll tell you, first of all, while it really is a lot of wind here, I happen to be next to a building, and we're sort of a round building, so there's actually nothing likely to come my way given the way the wind is blowing, because we are obviously concerned about being safe, but all I'm going to get is wind right now. I'm just going to get buffeted around a little bit. We're out of the way of debris. Over when I was on the boardwalk, debris was a real concern. There was debris flying around. Most of the restaurants and shops have done a good job of tying things down. I did see some siding flying off buildings. We do know that in this county there are people in shelters. 400 to 500 people, we believe, are in shelters. If you didn't leave, you can't leave now, because the most direct way mainland is over a causeway, over a bridge, and that bridge is probably flooded right now, because about 2 hours ago it was almost flooded. So you can't get out. If you're in this part of Atlantic City, this is where you are. We're about to see another police vehicle. They're really working around here. They're making sure that nobody is anywhere they are not supposed to be, but they do know that we've taken precautions. So we're going to start to see them all around, making sure come 6 o'clock there is nobody out on the street. But frankly, unless you're kind of like us, where you're reporting this, there's no reason to be out here. These winds are particularly strong right now, Brooke, and it's only going to get stronger. We have been doing a survey around. There's not too much damage. I know there were reports of a part of the boardwalk that had been destroyed and upended. We did not see that. There are, however, piers that go out into the ocean. We couldn't get out there. It was just too rough. But that's possible that some of that's been blown off. But generally speaking, everything's pretty solid around Atlantic City and well built, good infrastructure. We haven't seen any damage yet, and we are not seeing people roaming around and sort of looking around to see what's going on.
Hey, Ali, it's Chad Myers. Is that salt water you're standing in, or is that just fresh water flooding from the rain? Because you are still 5 hours from high tide.
Yeah, this is fresh water right now. When we were out at the ocean about half an hour ago, obviously, that was salt water, which also had sand in it, so that was sort of pelting us quite heavily. This right now is fresh water, but you know, you've got a better sense of the water pattern around here and where we're going to start to get the water from. You can just see, by the way, there's a fire vehicle there. Police over here, New Jersey State Police just passed me, so we're seeing a lot of law enforcement ability. I just saw an ambulance go by. They seem well prepared here in Atlantic City. I think that car is probably right in between us now. But in fact, I think there's a car and a truck. Let me just move over so that you can actually see me. But that's what we're seeing here. We are not seeing casual folks around. We are definitely seeing people with pickup trucks and you know, checking out their businesses and things like that. But everything on the boardwalk, I don't know if you've got the video that I sent in from when I was on the boardwalk. Everything is shuttered. Most stores have steel grates in front of them, which they normally use to lock up the stores, particularly because we're in the off season. Others have got plywood in front, but everybody's hunkered down and prepared for this in Atlantic City. Like I said, there are about 500 people in the shelters in Atlantic City. Governor Christie has said in New Jersey, if you have pets, they've got pet-friendly shelters. But really, at this point, wow. At this point, if you didn't get out, you're not getting out.
Ali Velshi, these are just, we're going to stay with you. These are just, this is pretty unbelievable, these pictures we're getting from Atlantic City. You know, I was talking to the mayor a moment ago who was, he remembered a storm in 1985 as being pretty bad. And I know, Chad, you've talked about, we talk so much about, Battery Park and some of the areas in lower Manhattan that could really see that historic storm surge of 12 feet. Here where Ali is, not specifically where Ali is, but in Atlantic City, they could have record-breaking storm surge of, what, 9.5 feet?
And they will also have a wind tunneling effect, where the winds are going to go between those big casinos. Those casinos are fairly high. I mean, they're not 80 stories high, but they are high enough to cause that funneling, that Bernoulli effect. And I believe those buildings may start to come apart when these winds get so strong. Ali, have you seen any damage to buildings yet?
We haven't yet, but Chad, this is the strongest we felt the wind so far. It sort of picked up in the last half an hour. This is a band, obviously, that's coming through, and this is by far the strongest. Look at that. Look at the wind and the water going down the street behind me. This is by far the worst of it so far. And if it picks up much more than this, I think you're probably right, Chad. We were just there by the building. You know, the tall buildings.
Oh, careful.
Too well. Yeah, there's a good gust coming this way. You can't see them well, but at this type of wind, I wouldn't be surprised to see windows blowing out at some point fairly shortly.
Have people, Ali, we mentioned this mandatory curfew, have people indicated that they will be following it? Those who did stay behind will shelter in place?
Yeah, look, you don't really have a choice. They knew we were coming down here. We checked in with the police as we crossed the bridge into here, and the police escorted us most of the way. You can't be walking around here. Every time we were out there on the boardwalk checking things up, every few minutes we had a vehicle come by, ask us what we were doing. It helps that I've got the big CNN jacket on, and they were fine with that. They got some sense that we've done this before and we know how to handle it, but they do not want onlookers. I did see one guy taking a picture a little bit earlier. I don't know whether he was media or he was just taking a photograph. The waves are pretty spectacular at this point. They're banging up against the piers, so it's quite a sight to behold. And interestingly enough, the visibility is good enough. I can see the piers. I can't see the ocean because there's a building in the way, but I can see all the way through the ocean from here. The visibility is actually quite good, but this wind and this rain is really picking up right now. I don't know, Chad, if it's getting much worse than this. You said this is around, we just checked, we're about 90 miles an hour. We're also about 7 feet above sea level. We're expecting the storm surge in Atlantic City to hit 9 or 9.5 feet. So that means we're all going to be a little taken up. Obviously at the sea at sea level, right now we're 7 feet above ground. So in a few hours we'll be underwater.
Ali, we're going to give you just a break for a moment. We're going to come back to you later in the hour. Can you, Chad, just answer his question when he was saying it feels like the winds are picking up? My goodness, I mean, it looks like they are. It's tough to hear him in points because of the wind.
Ali, your wind will pick up for the next 3 hours, and then that will be